Hi, this is Larry London. Welcome to Border Crossings on the Voice of America. And today we are joined by a songwriter, a composer, a person who was called a prodigy at the age of 8 years old when he was winning music competitions at statewide level against college students. And he was only 8 and he was winning these competitions. Black BOK is with us today. And I welcome you to the Voice of America, Black BOK. It's nice to have you.
Thanks, Larry. It's great to be here.
Now, you are from my own stomping grounds. I grew up in Detroit.
Oh, really?
Yes, I am from a suburb called Oak Park near Southfield. I don't know where you're from. Which part of Detroit are you from?
I'm from the west side, but I all had cousins that lived in Oak Park. So, yeah, I spent a lot of summers in Oak Park as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I know the west side would be, what, Southgate or Wyandotte, I think?
No, like West Detroit, like near McKenzie High School.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I know that area very well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, growing up in Detroit, you had influence from a lot of different great musicians. Motown, I mean, was in Detroit. And there was just a lot of sound, a lot of soul sound. You know, you had the Mothership, the Electrifying Mojo. You had, Martha Jean, the Queen, with some great radio there and great music and stuff growing up. So what influenced you to get from, what you were growing up listening to hip hop into all of a sudden deciding classical music was going to be the direction you wanted to go?
Well, it's kind of backwards. I started out playing classical music at age 4. Mm-hmm. So before I was even able to listen to hip hop, I was listening and performing and playing and studying classical music. So initially the foundation was there. But it just kind of grew from that point. The older I got, the more I experienced more, the more I listened to more. My father was also a rock fan, so I listened to like Allman Brothers and AC/DC. My mother was also she listened to jazz, so all the jazz influence came in there. And then I began to study with some of the Motown musicians as I got into like a high school era. And it just kind of bloomed from there. Like all this music was around me, different things, different experiences, different sounds. So it all kind of mixed in together to create what we're doing now, which is neoclassical. And
you were discovered by Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, my first tour was Justin Timberlake. Straight out of a year of training as a recording engineer. And I got a call saying, hey, you want to go on the road with Justin Timberlake? I said yes. And a week later, I was on Jay Leno.
Wow. So that you just said yes. Did you say, no, not the Justin Timberlake?
No, I was just ready. I was, at that point, I honestly had prepared myself for something like that. I had really, really taken the time to really perfect my craft and meet the right people and build relationships. So when the call came, I was just ready. I was just completely ready.
And I know your birth name is Charles Winston III, but tell me how you came up with Black BOK. What made you decide to use that? Because of obviously the creative tie-in with the fact you're doing classical and hip hop. Is that how that came about?
Yeah, well, my name is Charles Wilson. So it's Charlie Wilson getting,
Charlie Wilson.
Yeah, exactly.
Great performer. Oh.
Great performer. So I definitely cannot use my government name because Charlie Wilson already exists. But one of the things that I wanted to do was pay sort of a tribute to hip hop culture, which is, we create names. And Black BOK was, it was a creation that came from two things. One, from my love for classical music and one of its founders, Johann Sebastian Bach. But as well, there's this quote that my father says, which is, everything will be okay, but you got to be okay with everything. And that stuck with me, and it's something that will stick with me forever.
Very, very profound. And the new album is called Black BOK. And so this is inspired by, I guess, a series of news stories, news events, tremendous progress and actual history being made in the Black community, in the world at large, but certainly here in America with the new justice on the Supreme Court and Michelle Obama. And of course, the unfortunate news of George Floyd and the shootings, the Black Lives Matter movement that was going on at the time. So that's the impetus of Black BOK?
Well, Black BOK actually comes from the movie and the book, The Green Book, which was a book of locations that during the Jim Crow era, Black people or people of color could go to these certain locations like hotels and barbershops and eateries and places where they could go to be safe, especially traveling in the Deep South. There's a movie called The Green Book, which I watched 5 times in one day. It's such an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, you should. But it tells the story of Don Shirley, who was a Black classical pianist who chose to tour the Deep South and bring music to places that were pretty dangerous. So just taking that legacy and picking up the ball and carrying it forward is sort of the reason that the album is called Black Book.
I cannot begin to know. Well, I can because, I'm of the Jewish faith. And so I do understand to a certain degree, but nowhere near to the level of people of color, the struggles, the discrimination, the fights, the injustices, the inequalities, the things that have gone on here in our country. And I can only imagine, because we are Voice of America broadcasting to a global audience. We are beyond the U.S. We're on in 100 countries outside of the U.S. And so in those countries, they are even further behind in progress and development and understanding. And so you are kind of a pretty important person at an important time, because in American history, we're evolving. We haven't evolved enough. We haven't come far enough. We're talking about hundreds of years of history that we have to try and undo, and we'll never forget, but we have to move forward from, if we can,
right.
As a nation. But outside of our country, people are dealing with discrimination and racial injustice. Have you experienced that? Have you gone outside of the U.S. to see other countries and how they handle the situation?
Yeah, well, luckily I had an amazing opportunity to tour with, like I said, Justin Timberlake and Rihanna and John Mayer and Demi Lovato. So I've been out the country many times. I have experienced racial inequality outside of this country. But I think that starting at home is very important for me. I think that we have many issues here domestically that we need to address. And my music, my mission is about awareness, and it's about opening up the conversation so that we can talk about these subjects and these topics and dig them out and find out the pieces and discover better ways to communicate with each other and to come to a better understanding.
Can you do a song for us? We'd like to hear something, first.
Yes. This song is recently has been performed on the ISS. It was a collaboration I did with Commander Michael Lopez Alegria, who's an astronaut. He took the time to learn this song and perform it with me as a duet, first in history. It's called Stars at Astra. Hope you enjoy.
All right. Black Book on Border Crossings. That's Black Bach. And is that song on the new album?
That song will be, it is released as of now. It will be released on a full album that's coming later this year. I don't want to talk too much about it though.
Okay, all right. We'll keep it between us.
Yeah.
And a few million other people, but it's just
no problem.
So I wanted to know if you could tell me you performed in space.
Yeah, well, my song performed in space. I wish I performed.
You didn't get to go in the spaceship.
I didn't get to go. No, I didn't get to go, but I would have totally. But it's always a wonderful thing when you write a piece of music, and I don't have any kids, so I always think of my music as my kids. And you write this piece, and you just don't know what it's going to do, and then one day you're looking at it on a rocket take off into space, and a few days later you're performing it with an astronaut live from the ISS. So it always is a beautiful thing to see how these pieces manifest and how they play out. But it's been beautiful. This was just an amazing, mind-blowing experience, and I definitely want to thank Commander Michael Lopez Alegria, who he's become a friend and a hero, and he's coming back to Earth in a couple days.
Wow. Well, I mean, we're talking with Black Bach. The new album is Black Book, and you have a tour. You've been on tour with, as you mentioned, Rihanna and Justin Timberlake, John Mayer. How about your own tour? You got a tour coming up now? Are you headed out, or are you on tour currently? What's the plan for touring?
Right now, I have a tour scheduled. It's called the Mixtapes and Counterpoint Tour. I start next week. It's going to be an amazing time. I encourage everyone to come out to see this. This is like truly a dream come true to be able to get back in front of an audience and perform. And this is definitely an emotional, cultural, just beautiful experience. Performances before, there have been tears. I will say that. So it's always a very emotional thing. And I hope to see a lot of people there.
And you have really taken on some heavy topics in your music and made the whole project about some very sensitive, very personal, very important, significant events in history. And so it's not often that somebody makes an album that's about history.
Yeah.
And certainly through the eyes of the person who's directly impacted by the history. So it's kind of an interesting twist. I mean, you're going out there to say, not only here am I the musician, but here am I the human being of a different race, of a different color, and here this is how this has affected me. Here's my music. This is my therapy. This is my message. Yeah. So, I mean, how have the fans been receiving this?
The reception has been more than amazing. We've had sold out shows. Fans, I can say that this has been one of my best experiences. I did a show in Detroit, and a little 4-year-old black boy from my city, he walked up to me and he just looked at me and he just stared. He didn't say a word. He just stared. And when I finally got him to talk, he said, "You're really good."
Wow. And
I said, "You're really good." And to come to find out, he and his 3 brothers and sisters were also piano students and studying at the time. And I gave them, I swear I spent like a half an hour talking to these kids and just encouraging them, convincing them to never quit, to never give up. Whatever it is that you want, continue to do it. It's yours to have. Your dream is your dream. Dream big, dream often, and you can have it.
Were you always dreaming about music? Was it, I mean, growing up in Detroit, it's an auto industry town. It's a union town. Yeah. It's a blue collar town. Yeah. It's a sports town. So, I mean, and there's a lot of music there. Aretha Franklin, the list goes on and on, as we were talking about earlier. But, I mean, was it music from the beginning at an early age?
Yeah, it was music from the beginning. I started early on. I think my mother, she thought that music would be a means to teach me discipline. So as a kid, she said, "You can do anything else," because I did basketball and I did baseball, and I did other sports, and I was a Boy Scout and did all these other things. But music was the one thing that she said, "You have to keep doing it until you're 18. At 18, if you decide you don't want to do it anymore, you're done." But it was also, I got into a phase where, I was playing music and girls started liking me. So it was kind of like, I'm going to stick and stay. And then I fell in love with the genre. Like I fell in love with just the art form. And I've been here ever since. It's always been music, number one.
Well, that's great. And, just to be able to reach people of all different ages, when you talk about, a youngster really liking what you're into, and you kind of have the whole spectrum of ages, because your music resonates with so many different people, so many different ages.
Yeah.
And I imagine also because we now have the people who hide behind social media. There's negative haters out there, people who say mean things. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the negative voices?
Well, one of the things that I use as myself to deal with negative voices, I don't consider them. Like they're a non-factor for me. If there is a negative voice, then that's just a reflection on who that person is, and never a reflection on who I am. I know that what I do is grounded in love and community and togetherness. And if you don't see it, sometimes, some people just don't get it, and it's fine if you don't get it. It's not for you. So in social media, pretty much it's like the Wild West. I mean, there's been a lot of love and great energy that I've received from social media, but every once in a while there's a few bad apples, but like I said, they're non-factors.
Did Rihanna give you any advice? Did you have a chance to talk to her when you were on tour with her?
On tour? Oh yeah, we hung out all the time. It was great.
Wow.
I think most of the real good advice came from Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
He definitely, I remember one day he pulled me aside. He said, "You know why I love you, dude?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Because you never stop." He said, "You always want to do better. It's always good." He's like at 100%. He said, "But you always push for 101." And I said, "Yeah, that's very true."
Well, I got to ask you, a little dirt now, because you were on the road with her. Is Rihanna late every single show? I keep hearing this. She's notorious to be late every single show.
Okay, so in the beginning, I toured with her with Good Girl Gone Bad, and that wasn't the pattern. No. And then when we got to kind of a little bit deeper into the tours, which were like the Loud tour, it started happening. I don't think it's intentional. I think that she just, she's in her world, and she does what she does, and she's able to move and shift, with things around her in her own time. And one of the things I do is I respect her for it. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't show up late for shows, but I mean, she's Rihanna. The people stay. Oh, yeah. And then when she gets on stage, it's a beautiful show, and you're at the best time. They forgot
they waited 2 hours. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
We're talking with BLKBOK, who is our guest today from Detroit. I assume Detroit's still home.
No, Detroit's
not home. Where do you live now?
Las Vegas is home now, but not for long.
Okay, not for long. So where are you moving next? Where's the caravan off to?
I don't know. It may be to Atlanta. It may be to DC. It may be back to Detroit. I'm not sure yet. So it'll be later this year, though.
Now, when you write your songs, I mean, of course, this album is inspired by, personal experience. How about the next album? How do you follow up an album that's such a political statement, as BLKBOK is? How will you follow that up? What's next?
Well, I can't say beauty. I'll say just the thing of our society is that stuff always happens. There's always something, there's always something to write about, to talk about. There are many knots to untangle. And through my music, that's what its purpose is to help bring awareness to these particular knots and to help untangle them. For instance, I just had a song released called Forgotten Girls, which is a little bit of a story about the Gabby Petito story, and the fact that there are so many Black and colored girls that go missing and they never get media attention. Right. So there's always a story to be told. So moving forward, I don't think there'll be any difficulties in writing new material.
It's interesting because you've chosen to write about news stories or stories that are going on in our social conscience right now versus romance and love and things like that. You've chosen to take, to meaty subjects. Yeah. And that's kind of, have you thought about becoming a politician? I mean, if you have a message, you have, a cause, and you want to, obviously be behind that. Music is a great way to reach people, but I think as a politician, you can affect more change. Probably, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe music, it has to start with the people, but, it still ultimately ends with the political people. That's where change has to happen at the end.
Yeah. I've never thought of that. I don't think politics is for me. I think music is the perfect format for me to tell these stories. I let the politicians be politicians. I'll support them if they support the the missions or the visions that I have, then I will support them. So, yeah.
Did Michelle Obama hear your record? Has anybody responded to you? You know,
I have heard from her production team. I did get to perform it for them. I'm not sure if she's heard it yet, but I'm hoping that she has. It's a very interesting song about a very interesting experience, and I would love to speak with her about it. And, you know, I wrote a song called about her first day in the White House. I would love to hear her story of the first day in the White House.
Yes, that would be cool. Maybe she can sing it. Maybe a duet.
Yeah, that would be great.
BLKBOK is our guest. Would you do another song for us?
Yeah, so I recently have had a bit of success on social media. I love social media, so I'm going to do a medley of covers that I performed on my socials.
All right, here's BLKBOK with a medley for us on Border Crossings. Border Crossings, he's Black Bach, and it is a black book. That's the name of the new album. He's with us today. We just heard a medley. How did you pick the songs you put together in that medley? Because medleys are tough. You know, you got to make some decisions.
Yeah. I just picked songs that I liked that were super popular. Sometimes I ask my nieces and nephews for advice on what songs they think I should do as covers. That's always a fun experience because some of their listening is absolutely unreal. But you know, what's popular, what's trending, and then for me, what I can have fun actually covering. You know, to me, that's the big thing is how can I bring this to life? How can I illustrate how much classical music is inside of, for instance, Cardi B? So yeah, it's been fun that way.
Is there anybody you'd like to work with on your wish list? You mentioned Cardi B. Are there other people you say, God, I'd like to work with so-and-so, fill in the blank?
There's an artist named St. John. I would love to work. Yeah, I would love to work with St. John. Roses. Yeah, I would love to work with St. John. I think he's an extreme talent. I think he has an ear and a writing style that's very unique. I think that with me and my neoclassical perspective and what he does from an artistic point of view, I think they would mesh really well.
Is there a subject matter that you won't touch? Is there something that you just don't feel comfortable addressing?
I can't say that there is one. I haven't come across anything to me that it's pretty much like this. If I can discuss it and I can feel it, then I can write about it. So I haven't come across any topics that I haven't, you know, that my skin isn't thick enough to understand or to comprehend. So no.
I mean, our country honestly is never, I'm not a real political person, although I'm living in the epicenter of politics in Washington, D.C. But our country's never been this divided. You know, in all 61 of my years on Earth, I cannot recall a time that we've been this divided at each other. We're at the point of questioning democracy, questioning civil rights, questioning, we might have a civil war on our hands. I don't know, you know, God forbid. Yeah. But it's got to be a tough time to be a songwriter to make sense out of a senseless time.
I think that I don't know if it's definitely necessarily difficult or challenging. My position is always in the middle. For a lot of my life, I've lived in the middle. I went to Catholic schools when I was a kid, and then I went to public schools when I was older. And, you know, I was too black at one, and then I wasn't black enough at the other. So I've always been kind of positioned at this place where I'm in the middle. I mean, I'm a classical pianist. My favorite sport is NASCAR. I mean, I'm always kind of in the middle. So if there is something that's happening, I see the two sides that we're dealing with. And my position is to constantly bring the other side awareness about the other side. I think that there is always a middle ground. There's always a place where we can find understanding and we can be connected in a way that's human as opposed to just based on our beliefs. So my job is to constantly write things and illustrate that we have more likenesses than differences.
And that's well put, very profound. On your journey of self-discovery, you have been a fortunate person to actually find your place. There's a lot of people who aren't that lucky. They're still lost and they don't know where they fit in this very difficult world to fit in. Right. And so do you have any advice for people who might be struggling to find a place, to find a lane, to find their spot?
Yeah, whatever it is that is your spot, that's your spot. You're not supposed to fit in. The beauty of who we are as humans is that we're all different. And the idea is that our differences are the uniqueness that we carry. You're not supposed to fit in. I would honestly tell everyone, you're not supposed to fit in. You're not supposed to be just like everyone else, or just like the Kardashians, or just like, you know, what you see on TV, or, you know, 90 Day Fiance. That's not what life is. If that's not your life, then that's not your life. You know, the best thing is to love yourself. I would say that more than anything. Self-love is everything. If you can learn to love yourself, not even the image that you see in the mirror, but authentically love yourself. Sometimes I walk around and I give myself hugs because I just need to know that I have a love for myself. If you can do that, then your place in this world, wherever it may be, is secure.
That's great. That's great. Spreading positivity. I love that. And so Black Bach is on the show with us right now. You were winning contests against college students at age 8. Did you comprehend what you were doing? Was because people were throwing the word prodigy around, and at 8 years old, you're learning how to spell, basic words. You weren't learning how to spell prodigy. So, I mean, how did that feel at that age to be accomplishing what you had accomplished?
It felt like going to a baseball game. It was going to a piano competition. It was just what we did. My sister is also a pianist, so that's why I say what we did. But it was just, it was part of the everyday weekly hustle. On Saturdays, we would have lessons in Lathrop Village. We would come back home. We would study Monday through Wednesday. We may have a touch-up lesson downtown on Wednesday. And then it was just that constant rotation. And then we would have festivals. We would walk into the festivals. We play our pieces for our adjudicators. We get our markings maybe a month later, and then we start the process all over again. So as an 8-year-old, no, I had no comprehension of what was really going on. I just knew that I remember I did a competition at Marygrove College in Detroit, and at the end of it, they said, "And our winner is Charles Wilson." And I just, I walk up and get my. Can we go get McDonald's?
That's it.
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal then. Yeah.
Jeez, let's go get some Saunders hot fudge.
Yeah.
In Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Growing up in Detroit, you got to know what Detroit stuff is, or Buddy's Pizza or whatever. But we're talking with BLKBOK, and so it's just hearing you say Lathrop Village brings back so many memories to me. Growing up in Detroit, what a great place it is to grow up, a great city. Yeah. Getting out of the city now as you have to Las Vegas and making your adjustments and living in other places and traveling to other places. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed a difference in the way your music resonates out of the U.S. when you perform outside of the U.S.?
Well, I haven't had the opportunity to play any of my music outside of the U.S. yet.
Oh, okay.
But that is definitely a discussion that's been happening with my agents. So I'm looking forward to it either later this year or early next year.
Now, I don't know how old you are now, but at 8 to be called a prodigy, immediately what comes to mind, Detroit artist at age 13 called a prodigy, Stevie Wonder was another artist, So, to get that label is really, that's, to me, that's very, very impressive, even though you got it at a time you didn't quite understand what the substance of it was. But you do have a weekly series as well that you want to create with new music every week. Is this a webinar? How do you want to do this? What's the series?
It's called the What's Going On Social series, and it's every third Friday of the month. I release a new short snippet of a new song that I'm writing, and that song has to do with something that we're dealing with socially at the moment. So this last Friday was called Ketanji's Court. Mm-hmm. It was a dedication to Ketanji Jackson Brown, who's now on the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, yeah.
Right? And before, there have been others that have addressed certain issues. One being, what is his name? Matthew, good grief. I'm drawing a blank. But talking about autism and children with autism who have been incarcerated because police didn't understand how to deal with someone on the spectrum. And it's just a way that I can tap into what's kind of going on right now and just tell a little story. And then after that, I have an hour after I release the song, I have an Instagram live where we talk about the subject, and people come in from all over different places. And we've talked about, social, criminal justice reform, and we've talked about, going to space, and we've discussed so many topics. And I love my Instagram followers. They're so awesome. They come in and they leave great comments. And I've had to have, one-on-one lives with them and have learned some amazing things and got amazing insights from people that I did not necessarily know. And it's just a great way to connect as a community and as a nation.
It's very interesting and timely what you're talking about. April is Autism Awareness Month. I have a 12-year-old son that has autism, so I can certainly understand, the significance of what you're doing and the impact, I'm sure the profound impact that it's had on the autism community, the autistic community.
Yes.
But, kudos to you for everything you're doing and the message that you're spreading and how you're spreading it. Have you thought about scoring a film? Is that something that's on your wish list?
Oh, that is definitely on my wish list. There have been a couple opportunities. We weren't able to go fully through with them, but I am a John Williams, Danny Elfman, Hans Zimmer fan, so definitely scoring movies is in the future for me.
So you might get a call from James Cameron for his next film, and
I would be honored.
wouldn't that be something?
Yeah,
Would you do another song for us? We got time for one more.
Yeah, I'll do a song that was written about connection and about people being together. I witnessed this on a specific day in 2020, and just people just out on the streets celebrating and just being together, and it sparked an emotion in me. This is called November 7th, 2020.
All right, here's Black Bach on Border Crossings. Border Crossings, Black Bach, and a very significant date.
Yeah.
that song that you just performed.
Yeah.
And so everything you do is driven by news headlines or social issues.
Yes.
And that's going to be who you are for the rest of your career. Is that what you see? Or is there some other project you'd like to get involved with that you see maybe one day? Because what you're doing, you couldn't do a Christmas album necessarily.
But I do have a Christmas album.
Oh, he does. Prove me wrong once again.
Prove me wrong. But it has a specific purpose.
Okay.
It was a Christmas EP called Angels Watching Over Me. It was a collaboration with my good friend Lawrence Brownlee, who's one of the world's leading Black male tenor operatic voices. Mm-hmm. And it was just an opportunity for me and someone from another world, which is opera, to come together and to bring a different spin on these Christmas classics. It's not very often that you see a Black pianist and a Black opera singer doing Christmas songs together. So it was just an opportunity to get in the studio and hang a bit and do some music for the Christmas season. And it's out, actually. It's called Angels Watching Over Me.
Wow. See, look at that. Little known fact.
Yeah.
Little known fact. But, as far as other projects, other tours, other things that you're going to do, when this tour that you're on right now ends, will you be going internationally? Do you have a plan to go internationally?
Absolutely. There is a plan to go internationally.
Yeah. Can you tell me anything about it?
Well, through my social media, I've built a bit of a following in Europe, so I'm sure that Europe and Australia will be part of this new international breakout.
And where's the social media sites? Where do people go when they want to find out about BLKBOK?
Instagram, TikTok. I'm on.
But what are the
Twitter.
Addresses?
Oh, at BLKBOK. At BLKBOK. Everything is at BLKBOK.
And how do you spell that? Because that's important for the international audience.
That's at BLKBOK.
So yeah, it doesn't sound. It's not spelled like it's spelled.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
BLKBOK.
Yeah.
BLKBOK, who is our guest today, and of course you have your website.
Yes, that's BLKBOK.com.
Easy enough. And people can read about you. They can find out your tour schedule, get the music. It's available on Amazon, Spotify, and all the websites that sell, the streaming services.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting time, and I just, to ask it's probably a difficult question, might be impossible to answer, but from your perspective, what do you think it's going to take to turn people's minds around, to get the change that needs to take place, that you're trying to initiate with your music? What's it going to take? And do you think we're going to see it in our lifetime? Do you think you're going to see it in your lifetime, a significant change in the way that people of color are treated in this country? Let's just deal with this country. Do you think we're going to see that?
Absolutely. I think that this is the beginning of it. I think that more people like me shall emerge. I think that the conversation will become more interesting to people. And I think that the conversation is the first part, is understanding what the Black experience is. For instance, if you come to a BLKBOK show, you understand there's a whole story that's being spilled in front of you that's telling you a bit of the experience, and you're able to get a view into the window of what the Black experience is like. And just that is enough to understand. Like I said, to me, everything is being seen, heard, and understood. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's where the experience that I want to bring to a certain audience. And I know there's many more out there that are on the same path and the same journey with the same vision.
Mm. I thought that the George Floyd case would get us moving in the right direction, but there's still every day on the news another person of color is killed, mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better, and the gun laws aren't changing. And so I don't know,
it's a daily fight. And mm-hmm. the idea is that we keep fighting. We never stop. And mm-hmm. we write more George Floyd songs, and we bring more awareness to these situations and cases that are happening around the nation. And we talk about them, and we work this out. And I mm-hmm. think that we can. I think that there is definitely a possibility for a peace to come about in this nation.
It's a pleasure to talk to you and to hear your message, and to be able to, share your message with our audience around the world. Yeah. And BLKBOK, all the best to you. You are a messenger, of something very significant and important, and we appreciate the opportunity to help you deliver that message. So thank you for being with us. The album is called Black Book, and I do hope that when I'm back in DC, and if you choose to live in DC, you'll come by and visit us. You won't be a stranger.
Absolutely.
Because we got to get back to our office. We've been out of the office for two years or something, whatever it is. Yeah. So hopefully the COVID is in the rearview mirror and we can move forward. But thank you, sir, for being on the show. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to doing this again.
Do you want to say anything to the troops who might be tuned in right now?
Yes. Be safe. We love you. We love you. That's all I can say really is that we love you and come home safe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Black BOK is our guest, and I thank you for tuning in. My name is Larry London, and this is Border Crossings on VOA TV.